Welcome to I Said What I Said. I'm Brad Buckeye. That's Tyson Gentry. We're keeping on cruising, baby. We got the South down. We got the East down. Go check those out if you haven't already. We're in the Midwest. We got some interesting stuff here, Tyson. So if this is the first time you're tuning in, what Tyson and I have been doing is just taking a look at the first-round matchups, kind of giving our thoughts on there. We'll give some broad second-round thoughts and kind of go through the rest of the bracket without it being official. And then we're going to give out our region winner, give out our region Cinderella. So, Tyson, before we got on here, we're talking like, boy, there could be some interesting things here. So I'm curious how you see it breaking down.
Yeah, I mean, this one feels maybe the most cut and dry to me, which means that it's going to be crazy.
So let's pull up the bracket here. If you're watching on YouTube, you can follow along with us. And we got to start with Houston here. They're going to play SIU Edwardsville. We got some injury concerns for Houston, but I guess was it Walker? Is that his name, Tyson? I'm drawing a blank here. But I think he's going to try to play in the first round. It shouldn't hinder him too much.
It shouldn't matter either whether he plays or not. I mean, they're playing SIUE. I think Houston should win this game. I saw something like 4% of brackets are picking them to lose. So I don't know how many of you sickos are out there like me where you do one of all upsets just to see like what the percentage is at the end. But Houston's not losing this game, dude.
And Juwan Roberts, so I apologize for that. But, yeah, I don't see that losing here, Tyson. Now, this is an interesting one, Gonzaga, Georgia. You want to talk about all the analytics nerds are all over Gonzaga. You know, like, well, actually, they're this and that, and they should be way better, and they're up there with the Dukes and the Floridas. And it is interesting to look at KenPom. They are 9th. And above them, Michigan State, the 2 seed, Texas Tech, the 3 seed, Alabama, the 2 seed, Tennessee, the 2 seed, then the 4 1 seeds. And then there's at 9 is Gonzaga. It's just an interesting juxtaposition from how they were seeded and how they're viewed. This is a team who could really make a run here. I'm not a believer in Georgia. I haven't been all season. Yeah, they played some teams tough, but I think Gonzaga is going to win that game.
You say all season, I say all decade. Never buying into the dogs when it comes to March. I think Gonzaga wins this game, and I think they do it in a way that makes us believe they can beat Houston and keep the Sweet 16 streak alive.
Clemson McNeese. This has been a popular team, McNeese, with Will Wade coaching there. Can they pull off the upset? Clemson's going to be without Dylan Hunter, one of their guards, but they still have Chase Hunter and Zachary in the backcourt, who's a strong duo. And then Shefflin is kind of a do-it-all guy, and they got a big man up front. I think Clemson's too good to lose this game. But an interesting note, Tyson, Will Wade used to be an assistant at Clemson. So that's something there, little history lesson. But I don't know. McNeese, I want to buy in. I don't think they're as good as they were a year ago, just based on the eye test. What do you think about this one?
No, I don't think so either. I also really like Clemson, and I'm getting to the point with Will Wade where, like, yeah, the stuff was hilarious at LSU and the Bagman and all of this, but it's like we're talking about this guy as though he's like in the upper echelon of college basketball coaches, and it's like, when did he make that jump for us? Like, it was sometime between like when they won a bunch of games in the scandal, and then he just elevated himself to like, well, they have Will Wade, they have a chance, and that's just not true.
Yeah, I mean, Clemson 24th in offensive rating, 16th in defensive rating, according to KenPom. And Tyson, if we're looking at McNeese, it's like, all right, well, you're going to need to have like a strong showing here, or at least have something that stands out to me. 63rd in offensive rating, 66th in defensive rating. So I think there's just too much for Clemson. I don't think they're going to lose the game.
I'm with you.
Okay, Purdue, High Point. We know without Edey. Well, I don't know if I can. This is the problem here. Now, I think the interior attack here from High Point can actually bode well, because without Edey, and of course, one of the best college players we've seen in a while, Tyson, this defense, the interior defense for Purdue is atrocious. And what we know here, High Point is able to score 2 points at a high clip, 57.4%. That was 15th in the country. When it comes to defending it, Tyson, I'm pulling up Purdue here because I got to scroll all the way down. They're last in the field, 56.4%. They allow their opponents to shoot on them. 348th in the nation. This could be a recipe for an upset if you're looking at things. We know Painter, before the Edey thing, and even when they had Edey, is susceptible to some early round losses. Can you see them losing this?
I don't think so. I think this feels weird to say about a Purdue team, but like I think they have enough guards and good enough guard play to just kind of mitigate some of those things on the inside that they're not so good at. High Point's a really good team. I don't think that High Point is good enough to beat Purdue. But again, Purdue is not deep. And so you get some of these guys into foul trouble or, they're huffing and puffing in the second half, High Point has a chance.
So Illinois plays the winner of the playing game. We are recording on Tuesday.
Does it matter to you who wins the playing game?
It does, actually.
Texas?
Xavier.
Whoa.
Well, so I was pretty close to calling the Xavier run here. Now, they lost to Marquette. They kind of blew that. Tyson, Xavier is playing really good basketball, and Fremantle is playing well. That's a big guy. Is an experienced player on the inside. Illinois, boy, I mean, Brad Underwood, when he did the thing he did at Stephen F. Austin, that was sick, right? And it kind of put him on the map. Since that point, it has been disappointing in March. And, Sean Miller, not necessarily a guy that we're going to hang our hat on and say, what a great coach. But you got an experienced team. I think Xavier can beat Texas. I think they're going to win that game. And then I think Xavier is live against Illinois, Tyson. I'm still going back and forth on that one.
I would think Texas is a little bit more live. I don't like Xavier, but again, like the committee does all this stuff, and we're sitting here and we're like, they don't have any quad one wins. Like, what are we doing? And that just means Xavier and North Carolina are both going to end up going on runs. The committee knows all, and we're stupid. Illinois is the most up and down team in the country. I think that they have a chance to play in the Sweet 16, play in the Elite Eight, or they have a chance to lose again by 20 points in the first round.
Kentucky and Troy. Tyson, I'm going to call my shot. So if you haven't watched our East preview, go check that out. Tyson called the 13-4 upset with Akron over Arizona. I'm going to call my shot here and go the 14 over the 3 in this one by taking Troy to upset Kentucky. Now, I'm not necessarily confident in that. I'm looking at the stats. Kentucky 16th in Ken Palm rating, 8th in offensive rating, 57th in defensive rating. Okay, well, what can Troy do? I just talked about, you need to do something well if we're going to see for McNeese. Well, Troy's 98th in Ken Palm rating, 153rd in offensive rating, and 71st in defensive rating. Like, it's not a great recipe here. But they take care of the basketball. They get after it, Tyson. Kentucky, without their guards, are dealing with some injuries. This to me, screams like upset city. Plus, I thought Mark Pope was actually a good hire at Kentucky. I think he's going to get things turned around there compared to where it was with Calipari. But it's not like he's had a great March. We just completely crapped on his leg last year with that BYU team that everybody was picking to go far. Just a brutal upset in that one. So maybe another thing's coming here.
They have to win this game. They can't lose. Like, what is it? They lost as a 2 seed and then they lost as a 3 seed the last couple times they've been ranked here. And that was with John Calipari, and that was in Cal's era of not understanding that you're allowed to make in-game adjustments. I think Pope will recognize that is allowed in 2025. And dude, Kentucky's got some guys that have played a lot of basketball in March. They just haven't done it in a blue jersey.
Yeah, that's a good point too. So I'm calling my shot there. I don't think Kentucky's going to make a deep run anyway. And so that's why I'm going to call it there. Tyson, let's move on to UCLA and Utah State. Now, when the bracket first came out, I said, give me Utah State, yada, yada. I'm kind of going back on that now. I have UCLA winning this game. I'm curious how you see it.
Did you see Mick Cronin's interview about the travel thing?
No.
For the Big Ten? They were just saying how it evens out, and he's like, because other Big Ten teams have to get to come to LA where it's 70 degrees for a day. So maybe he's going to be happy being able to put his feet down. He doesn't have to look out his window and see the Statue of Liberty. This is going to be an excellent game. I don't look, when this part of the bracket came out, I think that if you're a Tennessee Volunteers fan, you get to put your feet up on your desk and watch the first couple rounds and just be happy, that you're not at the top of this thing. I think that Tennessee is better than all of these teams. As far as this game goes, I think I'm leaning UCLA. I'm going back and forth every 45 minutes because Utah State does some things really well that I think can give UCLA problems. But I love Mick Cronin.
Yeah, and I think he's a really good coach. And they're 35th in offensive rating, 17th in defensive rating are the Bruins, Tyson. And then I'm looking at Utah State. I've been impressed with them, but they're a Mountain West team. I just can't buy into them when I'm on the fence, right? I got to go with the other guys. 17th in offensive rating for Utah State. And that's like, okay, that's one of the things we like. Defensively, 149th in defensive rating. And then I'm looking at kind of some more of the turnover stuff here. UCLA forces a ton of turnovers, Tyson. They're 5th in the country, forcing a turnover on 22.8% of their possessions. Utah State turns it over on 16% of possessions. It's 100th in the nation. So I think UCLA is going to get after them. They can disrupt that offense, and they're going to be able to score the basketball. Give me the Bruins to survive this upset attempt. We both got Tennessee over Wofford, I assume, too.
Yeah, I mean, no disrespect to the Terriers. I like this Tennessee team a lot, and I think Look, dude, they swallow their whistles for the first couple rounds of this thing, and Tennessee's going to mug somebody, and we're all going to sit at our TVs. We're going to go, Wofford only lost to them by 4. They could have pulled off the upset. There was 10 fouls, and then they're going to do it again to UCLA.
That's the thing. All right, so let's get back into some broad picture thoughts, because I'm curious about how everything shakes out in your mind here, because we both have the Houston-Gonzaga matchup, and there are a lot of people that are like, Gonzaga can make a run. Now, Houston's a darling. Some people have them. I think if you're going to look at some of these bracket nerds or game theory stuff, Houston should be the one you pick based on everybody loves Auburn and Duke. Oh, well, Florida just won the SEC. Houston's the one that's sitting out there for game theory watch if you like them. But even the further game theory nerds like, whoa, wait a minute. Gonzaga actually rates out better. Gonzaga, if you want to talk about, if you want to pull off the upset or have the bracket nobody else has, do you think that's possible?
It's possible. I mean, it would be ultimately hilarious if this is the Gonzaga team that can slay some of these demons and get to where they want to go. But I think Houston is just too deep, and it's not. We've talked about it a bunch. It's not the same, defensive intensity team that we're used to seeing from Houston, where it's like, oh, dude, they're just going to out physical you. They can still do that, but this team is better at putting the ball in the hoop, which has been their biggest bugaboo when it comes to March. So I think Houston will be fine.
I do too. Anything else that stands out to you as we're just kind of going through? I know we kind of had a similar bracket here, but just give me some of your thoughts as we climb through.
I mean, I'm interested to see which Illinois team we get. That's really what it boils down to, because I think the Illinois team that showed up and beat some really good opponents this year, that's a team that could beat Kentucky. That's a team that could, or as you have it, beat Troy, and then that's a team that could beat Tennessee.
Right.
But I don't know what we're getting.
I don't either, and I'm looking at this to fill it out because I'm curious about that matchup. Maybe Kentucky, because I think Kentucky, Illinois, that's going to be, you got to play the over in that one. That game's going to be nuts. But everything else, Tyson, I think Clemson's going to get past Purdue. I think Clemson's going to have a good tournament here. I know people like McNeese. If they can get past them, I think they match up well against Purdue. Let's talk about regional winner before we go into our regional Cinderella. I have Houston coming out of here, and I don't think that's a shock to anybody, but I got to say, this is 3 number 1 seeds. I can't believe I'm going to do this. Well, I'll kind of tease for the next preview that we do. But I have Houston coming out of here. I have Tennessee in the Elite 8, which scares me because we both know that Rick Barnes of Tennessee loves to find a way to lose before they get to the point they should. Maybe Elite 8 is their ceiling. So if that's the case, they're probably going to lose to Illinois, like you pointed out. But I think Houston's the cream of the crop in this region.
I do too. I'm strictly chalk for the most part this year, and I'm not ashamed of it.
So region Cinderella. Got some options here. Now, if Gonzaga can make a run, sure, but they're, especially at the 8 seed, it's a little bit more classic than normal. But who do you have coming out of here that can be the actual region Cinderella where everybody looks back and like, oh, they're the one shining moment team?
I think, I took Oregon as a 5, and that felt like cheating, so I won't take Illinois as a 6. So I think it'd be High Point for me. Like if High Point beats Purdue and then matches up with a Clemson team, and they can, do what they do well, and it's kind of the same thing Clemson does well, and maybe do it at a higher clip than Clemson, then all of a sudden they're in the Sweet 16 playing Houston.
I like it. Troy would be an interesting one for me. I don't know if they can beat, they got to beat Kentucky. If they beat Illinois, that's a tough pass. So I think we're looking at most likely here for a region Cinderella. And I know we both said we think Clemson's going to beat McNeese. But if McNeese beats Clemson, let's say that they play High Point, I think McNeese would be favored in that game. If they play Purdue, that could be a game that McNeese can win, Tyson. I mean, this is not a Purdue team that necessarily scares anybody. And if you're going to beat the Clemson team who has 2 bigs, it's not like Purdue. I mean, maybe you got to shut down Kaufman-Wren, who's a little bit of a kind of a flex in and out guy. McNeese can get it to the paint, and they can attack the rim. And then you face a Houston team. That's going to be where I think it draws, or, that's where their Cinderella run ends. But we've seen Houston lose in the past early. So it's a McNeese team that can match you for toughness, things like that. Can they fill it up and score? That would be something else if McNeese and Will Wade takes out Houston.
Dude, there's 5 teams in this region that have earned the title of choke artists, right? I mean, Houston, we've seen them lose when they shouldn't. Tennessee, we've seen them lose when they shouldn't. Purdue has probably the most infamous loss. I don't know. UMCB put the boots to Virginia, so it was a little bit of a different 16-1 upset, but maybe the second most infamous loss. And then Illinois, I could be 100 years old. I'm still going to remember Kofi Cockburn and Io DeSumo getting clowned by some fat guy from Loyola Chicago.
Yeah, that was tough. That was tough for us. All right, so that's going to do it. Wrap it up for our Midwest region. We got one left. Go check out our South. Go check out our East previews. And we're back with the West coming in soon. We'll talk to you guys in a bit. Peace.